Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Very good morning to all. Today we have with us Dr. Priyanka Dhillon. On behalf of Women University Kanpur, I take this opportunity to welcome you, ma'am, for this session. And I also take this opportunity to welcome you on behalf of all the participants of this refresher course. Dear friend, I would like to inform you all about the Priyanka Dhillon. She is working as an assistant professor in Arya Kanya Mahavidyalaya. She was excellent volleyball player in her time. She was also the gold medalist national level in specifically in volleyball. We welcome you all, ma'am, for this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Rajesh sir. I'll just take a moment so that I can display my slides, and then we start with our session. At any point of time, अगर आपको लगता है मेरी voice clear नहीं है या मेरी slides move नहीं कर रही हैं, आप मुझे intimate कर दीजिएगा, right? I'll just start with my. I need a confirmation whether my slide is visible so far or not.
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I think a process होता है, तो मैं thank you की औपचारिकता भी पूरी कर लेती हूँ. So very good morning, still a couple of minutes in the morning. So very good morning to all of you. And at the outset, I would like to thank UGC-HRDC Center of BPS Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Kanpur Kala, and especially Dr. Yogesh Chandraji in absentia. He could not be here today. Who's the chairperson of Department of Physical Education and also the coordinator. So he invited me to deliver this talk. I don't know why my slide is not opening. Basically, I was asked to talk about sports in literature, because no doubt I have been a sports person myself, but then I took a different line, and English became my first love in that case. So how do I relate the two, sports and literature? So my entire talk would be giving you a reflection on it, and interdisciplinary approach हम किस तरीके से apply कर सकते हैं, हम उसके बारे में आज discuss करेंगे. I'll try to present once again. I think now it should be visible.
Yes, visible.
Yeah, thank you. So for the next hour or so, we'll be reflecting upon this particular theme of today's talk, and that is sports in literature, a reflection. So at the outset, of course, before I start, मैं अपने objectives जो हैं वो set करना चाहूँगी. So the objective of this task of this particular session is to discuss sports as a genre in literature. कि sports अपने आप में एक अलग से subject है literature के लिए, तो वो कैसे है, कैसे sports को एक theme की तरह evolve किया गया है, we'll talk of that. to see how sports is not a mere physical engagement. केवल एक वो physical enterprise नहीं है, but sports अपने आप में एक text है. It is a text suggesting multitude of roles and defining new meanings. So by the end of this talk, we'll be able to identify how literature transmits lifelong lessons through sports themes. तो literature and sports दोनों मिलके lifelong learning को enhance करते हैं, तो हम उस बारे में जान पाएंगे. Having our objectives set, the outline of the talk would be, first, I will focus on establishing the relationship between sports and literature, followed by understanding different meanings articulated in literature. And then we'll see some theoretical concepts. Theory में मैं ज़्यादा नहीं जाऊँगी, rather to explain those theoretical concepts, I may take some text for analysis. So this is how we'll proceed with our talk. To start off with this particular quote by Don Dhillon, जो sports के बारे में, games के बारे में क्या बोलते हैं, देखते हैं. So he says, he writes, the game doesn't change the way you vote or maybe comb your hair or receive your children. It changes nothing. And what he says next is important. It changes your life. So it changes nothing but your life. It becomes your way of life. So if you're a sports person, I'm a sports person, so it defines who I am, right? So we understand that sports has a deep influence on our life, and it exerts an influence on making us who we are, what we eat, how we conduct ourselves within the larger framework of the society. Okay. So on the other hand, literature is a creative reflection of the society. It mirrors the society and it also influences our mind. So what we see, sports also, has an impact on us, and literature also has an impact on us. So what we understand over here, that both literature and sports, they converge on life. वो दोनों आके life पे मिल जाते हैं. The presence of the theme of sports in literature, it has come up as a very natural, subject. So thus it gives us a unique and a very distinct genre in literature. उसका role literature में sports का एक अलग ही उभर कर आता है. So what we can expect from sports literature is we can expect stories where sport has an impact on the plot or character. So sports literature में central binding force एक game रहेगा. Okay, so it has a direct influence on the plot, on the character, particularly जो हमारा hero होगा या central character है, protagonist हम कहते हैं उसको. So there is something about that game, that sport, that does something special or significant to the character. Uska stature elevate ho jayega, okay? Brings him fame, changes his fortune or something of the like. So it is the sport or the game that has a major impact on the central character, changing the overall, perception of that particular story. So what we see over here is that in such works, it is the love for a particular game that becomes central. So, sports is central to such a literature. So that is something that we have to consider. Now, if we historically, talk of sports and culture and literature, so one thing is obvious over here is that sports or games, they hold a very sacred place in our culture and therefore in our literature also. Okay, so man's engagement in sport is time immemorial. सदियों से आदमी जो है वो किसी ना किसी अपनी एक sporting enterprise में engage होता चला जा रहा है. Okay, so if we take certain examples, if we see the seals of the Harappan times की वो जो seal अगर हम देखते हैं, and probably you people might have also seen it. So there are symbols of bullfighting. Okay, so people or the scholars have inferred that bullfighting was a common, agriculture sport during the Harappan times, similar to what we have as Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu. right? Even in the ancient Greece, games were a part of the funeral rituals to honor the dead heroes and leaders. So, socio-political, role of games in society is what we see. When we come to India, like we talk of India, so even the India too has always had a very strong culture towards sports. So, if we talk of our Vedas, the epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, or even the folk tales, so what we see: charioting, hunting, wrestling, swimming, archery, fencing, ये सारे जो games हैं, ये sports जो हैं, they've been shown in one form or the other. Maybe for training, maybe for entertainment or the sort. So we see warrior princes as engaging in these sports. And it is not just the princes that I talk of, सिर्फ आदमी नहीं है यहाँ पर. We have women too who have been depicted as actively participating in sports. So अगर हम Buddhist art और उन images को check करते हैं, देखते हैं, what we see over there is that the image of Surya, okay, the sun god, उनका जो chariot है, उनके दोनों तरफ female archers हैं, वो खड़ी हैं, okay. And also in the Mahabharata, I hope you've heard that story where Renuka is shown running so fast that she could catch her husband's arrow before it hit the target. Okay, so what we come to understand that writers from ancient times, they have elevated sports. उन्होंने sports को एक बहुत ही primary दर्जा दिया है and have influenced and infused attitudes, behaviors, even ethics into literature through their words, wordy craftsmanship, and with time, sports literature has evolved throughout the world. Okay. So what we can say here is like sports has its own role to, its own role and, defining the entire culture. There is a psychologist, a sports psychologist named Jim Taylor. So in reference to sports and culture, what he says is, I'll use his words, that a culture is the expression of team's values. Culture क्या है? Expression दे रहा है किसकी? Team की values, the attitudes, the beliefs about sports and competition. And it is the culture that will determine whether, say, for example, the team the team's focus is on fun. Fun would mean entertainment. Is on mastering that sport, which would mean training, or winning, which would mean entering into some kind of a competition. Okay, so the team's focus would, I'm repeating again, the culture would determine whether the team's focus is on fun, mastery, winning, or whether it promotes individual accomplishments or a team's success. So it is whether it is focused on just one individual or a group of individuals over there. So the reason of engagement in sports and literature may be varied. It can be social, it can be religious, it can be political, even economic, and entertainment is where it all starts with, of course. So when one engages in any kind of sport, one enters into a cultural field of activity. तो जब आप एक sport में, एक game में engage होते हैं, आप एक cultural scenario में place हो जाते हैं. Okay, and there you enter into a relationship with other people. Okay, so you are playing with other people, you're competing with other people, there are people who are seeing you. तो आप दूसरों के साथ भी relationship में engage हो जाते हैं, allowing them to compare their respective abilities and skills in the art of movement, maybe according to self-imposed or adopted rules, or on the basis of socially accepted ethical values. Okay, so that comparison goes on the moment a person engages himself in a particular sport. So what we see is the prominent themes like friendship, aggression, failure, honor, humiliation, even pride, loss, or hope. These are the prominent themes that we may see in sports literature. So the competition, the spectacle, personal struggle, exaggerated personalities, which are so characteristic of a particular sport. जो sports में ही हमें देखने को मिलता है, वो spectacle हमें देखने को मिल रहा है, people giving in their best. Okay, so this entire framework, it offers the writers perfect backdrop upon which they can deeply look into the human nature, okay, and create literature that transcends the sports itself. वो sports को एक अलग ही pedestal पर, एक अलग ही दर्जे पर ले जाकर खड़ा कर देता है. I hope I've made sense over here. So what we see is the evolution that is going on. So evolution of in not just sports but sports literature also. Okay, so what we see is that the evolution of sports literature owes greatly to the West, particularly with writers like Ernest Hemingway, Norman Mailer. I have written some names over here. Don DeLillo, David Foster Wallace, Tom Stoppard, Willa Carter also. So these writers, they have written immensely on sports themes. Okay, say for example, the first author that I have mentioned in this slide is Ernest Hemingway. According to Ernest Hemingway, there were only 3 sports. Others were mere games. So 3 sports that he valorizes a lot is bullfighting, motor racing, and mountaineering. Okay, so if we talk of his work, one work that I've mentioned in this slide, that is Death in the Afternoon, it focuses on bullfighting, right? Another work by Norman Mailer is The Fight, that focuses on 1975 World Heavyweight Boxing Championship that happened in Zaire between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Okay, so it captures that entire spectacle of that championship that was going on. Don DeLillo's End Zone has football in focus. Okay, so there is a character called Gary Harkness, and he embraces 2 of his passions. One is football, and the other is his views on and his commitment towards the nuclear war. Walter Foster Wallace, David Foster Wallace, on the other hand, he's a very prolific writer. बहुत लिखा है इन्होंने भी sports के बारे में, and there is one novel by him that is Infinite Jest. बहुत ही bulky novel है. It runs to 1100 pages. It is a task to read that work. So it has its setting. उसका जो पूरा setting है, it is in a tennis academy, and it is dealing with life. Okay, so Wallace's another book is The String Theory. It is also a very excellent sports memoir. So the writers from the West, they have taken up sports as central themes in their fictional works. Okay, some other noteworthy works which I would want people who are into sports or who see sports as a career, and they should read these books. So some of the books recommended are The Natural, written in 1952 by Bernard Malamud. The 6-7 books that I have selected over here, I've tried to bring in a variety of games so that we have an idea that books have been written not on just cricket or just baseball or football, but different games. So The Natural, this particular novel, it focuses on baseball, America's first love. So in the novel, the career of the central character is derailed by a bizarre shooting attempt. किसी एक shooting attempt में the central character gets trapped in, and 16 years later, how he works hard and how he comes back into the game. Okay. The next one is the crossover by Kwame Alexander. The crossover is about basketball. So here, there are two twin brothers, Josh and Jordan, and this particular novel, it narrates the story of these two brothers and their love for the game basketball. On the other hand, Leonard Gardner's The Fat City, it was written in 1969. It is about two doomed boxers in California's Central Valley, and they struggle to carve out a life for themselves. Okay. Another one by Chris Cleave, we have Gold, written in 2012. How we have two friends, professional rivals हैं, लेकिन friends भी हैं, and one chooses family, the other chooses sport, and how their association and their competition leads them to 2012 London Olympic Games, right? So Gold is about participation and heading or targeting the Olympics. High Dive, on the other count, is written by Jonathan Lee. It is about diving, the sport of diving. So a former star diver, he's trying to, recollect his life and give it a new meaning along with his daughter. The second last work in the list is We Ride Upon the Sticks. So when we talk of sticks, तो एकदम से hockey याद आता है. Yes, the next two works focus on hockey. So We Ride Upon Sticks, written by Quan Barry, is about high school hockey teams. Okay. And the members of the team would do anything to, place themselves in the state finals. And Richard Wagme's Indian Horse, it depicts how the central character, he finds peace and solace in the game of hockey. So apart from these, these are all, foreign authors and the books by foreign authors that I have quoted, but that doesn't mean that I'm ignoring Indian writing. So when we talk of Indian writers and the writers about sports persons in India, so sports literature has been more in the form of autobiography. If we see the previous list, they're in the form of fiction. If we see Indian literature, Indian sports literature, they're in the form of autobiographies and memoirs rather than fiction. And it is probably इसी reason की वजह से इसका readership जो है वो थोड़ा bleak है, narrow है. So we would want to probably reason क्या है? We would want to maybe watch the biopic Bhag Milkha Bhag or Dangal rather than read the autobiography The Race of My Life by Milkha Singh. Okay, but then I'm still hopeful that I do not mean to say that there are no novels or stories written by Indian authors. We have a very interesting book by Arvind Adiga, The Selection Day, which falls into the category of sports fiction. Other novels like Chetan Bhagat's Half Girlfriend or Three Mistakes of My Life, they do show basketball and cricket games respectively, but then sports is not central in these novels. Okay, they have not been, rather even these two sports have not been critiqued enough to evolve as a central theme. Okay, so one way or the other, we see the presence of sports in the novels in Indian writing, but then they have been overlooked and the other themes have been discussed more. So this is the area, this is the gap that we need to identify and evolve a scope of research. So with this particular idea, we move to the next part, that quickly discusses the role of literature. So what we come to understand is that literature, it functions to articulate and amplify various meanings of sports. कि sports जो है वो किस तरीके से अलग अलग meaning evolve करके हमारे आगे लोगों के आगे present करता है, वो meanings हमें derive करने हैं. Okay? और वो meaning literature के through derive करना आसान होता है. Sports as a theme in literature allows the writer to create a literature that transcends the sports. Its stature is elevated, celebrated to the extent that it is worshipped. कि इस तरीके से स्पोर्ट्स का एक दर्जा, जैसे मैं 2 बारी पहले भी बोल चुकी हूँ, स्पोर्ट्स का स्टेचर ऐसे बढ़ा दिया जाता है, उसको ऐसे एलिवेट कर दिया जाता है that people start worshipping that particular sport. So that is the power of literature. So competition, spectacle, personal struggle, the personalities, all these qualities that are, characteristic of a sport, they offer to the writer and also the reader. And in case, if it is a movie that we are seeing, the spectator too. So the competition, the spectacle, the personal struggle, the exaggerated personalities, they provide a very perfect backdrop upon which, one can look deeply into the human nature. So there is a kind of mutual coexistence of sports and literature. So sports and literature जो है वो coexist करते हैं, एक दूसरे को support करते हैं, elevate करते हैं. So great literary works, they capture the broad appeal of sport and its ability to transform individual and the society. Okay, तो स्पोर्ट्स की वो जो एबिलिटी है इंडिविजुअल्स में भी चेंज लेकर आने की और समाज में भी चेंज लेकर आने की, वो लिटरेरी वर्क्स के थ्रू और आसान हो जाती है, वो कैप्चर कर लेते हैं इस कैपेबिलिटी की स्पोर्ट्स के अंदर जो है. सो व्हाट आई इंटेंड टू से here is that through sports, writers explore and present the complexities of life, from their challenges, from their disappointments, even from their pleasures. And through literature, sports persons, trainers, they can understand these complexities also, okay, and improve and inspire themselves and set their own benchmarks and to develop the ability to turn adversity to advantage. So if say, for example, I have to inspire somebody to put in the best of the effort, rather than lecturing, maybe I would hand over a book, or maybe I would want that child to sit in front of the television and watch a biopic, right? Maybe the Karate Kid, maybe Dangal or something of the sort, right? So I'm moving ahead towards the analysis part also. And what I said that I'll be talking of certain concepts and theories without being, very theoretical over here. So as a critic or researcher, sports literature can be analyzed in a manner to show to the world a unique and rarely seen view and creative process of a game. तो एक गेम का वो जो टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट है, क्रिएटिव एस्पेक्ट है, उसको एक अलग नजरिए से प्रेजेंट करने की कैपेबिलिटी जो है वो हमें आइडेंटिफाई करना सिखाता है लिटरेचर. Okay, so what is it in the game that mentors, guides and shapes life? Okay, so गेम को एक मीनिंग देना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि वो हमारी लाइफ में किस तरीके से एक चेंज लेकर आ रहा है, हमारे लिए गाइड कैसे बन रहा है, हमारा ट्रेनर कैसे वो बन रहा है. Okay, so in order to understand the entire working of sports and sports literature, हम अलग अलग theories जो हैं वो implement कर सकते हैं, use कर सकते हैं. So let us consider, like we have 3 different theories I have mentioned over here: the existential, Marxist or the political theory. or some theoretical concepts like spectacle, habituous or nostalgia. तो हम very quickly एक दो line में मैं इनके बारे में बताऊंगी, and then we'll discuss this biography, which is in the form of a book also and a movie also, The Queen of Katwe. So let us consider and apply maybe the existential theory to sports literature. So before we do a quick analysis of this particular text, to relate, the sports literature thing, let me first talk of the existential theory. अब वो existential theory क्या करती है? It embraces personal freedom and choice. Okay, so giving a meaning to your life. How would you want to see yourself grow in the times to come? So the existential theory, it purports that humans choose their own existence and meaning. Human beings जो है अपनी existence, अपनी life को एक meaning अपने खुद के नजरिए से ही देना चाहते हैं. Okay, so we would see an existential text as being typically characterized by individuals who exist in a chaotic and seemingly meaningless environment. तो हम एक novel को या text को existential text कैसे मानेंगे कि वहां पर जो protagonist है वो फंसा हुआ है जिंदगी की उथल पुथल में, things are not going his way, chaos मचा हुआ है, there is a sort of a confusion, और environment में वो supportive लोग नहीं हैं या situations नहीं हैं. So this is the kind of setting that we would see in the existential text. So such an environment, it forces the protagonist to confront himself or herself and determine his purpose in the world. तो ये जो situation है, challenging situation है, ये central character को force करती है कि वो अपनी life में अपना जो problems आ रहे हैं, जो समय उनके हिसाब से नहीं चल रहा है, उसको कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करें, उसको अपने हिसाब से चलाने की कोशिश करें, एफर्ट पुट इन करें, एंड दैट एफर्ट कम्स बाय वे ऑफ, because we're talking of sports literature, by way of a particular sport. Another theory is the Marxist theory. So Marxism or left जो है वो क्या कहते हैं? They have long insisted that sports attributes and values, they do not occur in vacuum. कि ये जो quality of being being capable of doing something extraordinary, अपना best foot forward या performance दे दें, beyond the normal एक performance जो है, एक खेल जो है वो खेल जाए, ये vacuum में नहीं होता. Nothing happens in vacuum. Sports happens inside social and political and even economic power structures. तो सोशियो पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमिक पावर स्ट्रक्चर्स के बीच में जब आदमी एक कैरेक्टर प्लेस्ड होता है, तभी वो कैपेबिलिटीज जो है वो उभर कर आती हैं. ये मार्क्सिस्ट थ्योरी कहती है. ओके, सो दीज आर एंटवाइंड विद पेट्रियार्कल, रेसिस्ट, इवन द इंपीरियलिस्ट वेज ऑफ लाइफ. ओके, सो पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी क्या कहती है? सो पॉलिटिकल एनालिसिस ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर, it would talk of sports diplomacy. Okay, कि अलग थ्योरी ले रहे हैं हम, और अलग थ्योरी को के साथ ही हम स्पोर्ट्स को एक अलग नजरिए से देखने की कोशिश करते हैं कि वो मीनिंग किस तरीके से डिराइव कर रहा है. राइट, सो पॉलिटिकल एनालिसिस स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर का क्या करेगा? इट वुड वो स्पोर्ट्स के थ्रू डिप्लोमेसी करने की कोशिश करेगा. दैट इज यूजिंग स्पोर्ट्स एज अ मीन्स टू इन्फ्लुएंस diplomatic, social and political relations. अगर एक एग्जाम्पल लें, we'll take the example of Olympics. Olympics कहा जाता है, it is considered apolitical, कि उसमें politics कहीं नहीं है. Okay, but if you critically see the entire scenario and the history, Olympics too has gained a political significance as participation has in Olympics. It has come to symbolize political recognition and legitimacy. Okay, अगर एक एग्जांपल लें हम वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के बाद 1948 में जब लंदन ओलंपिक्स हुए थे, so the two countries because of their wartime roles they were not invited to the London Olympics. तो ये हम उसका political role कर रहे हैं, और वो दो countries Germany and Japan, both of them were not invited to the London Olympics because of their wartime roles. तो political analysis of sports literature again can be done on such counts. फिर हमारे छोटे से 3 concepts हैं like spectacle, habituous and nostalgia, जो फिर से स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर को अंडरस्टैंड करने में बहुत हेल्प करता है. तो अगर हम स्पेक्टिकल, इफ यू टॉक ऑफ स्पेक्टिकल, इट रेफर्स टू द क्लाइमेक्स ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स. स्पोर्ट्स की जो एस्थेटिक्स है, उसका जो क्लाइमेक्स है, उसको रेफर कर रहा है. Which would mean, if I have to explain that, how different mediums represent athletes, their relationship to race, gender, sexuality, even ethnicity, the class. ठीक है कि suppose if we take this work by Tim Croters, The Queen of Katwe, तो यहाँ पे spectacle क्या है? एक slum है युगांडा में. Okay, so from a slum, a girl is rising. She is rising to become a grandmaster in chess. तो यहाँ पे एथनिसिटी भी, क्लास भी, सेक्सुअलिटी भी, ये सारी स्पेक्टिकल्स जो हैं वो इन्वॉल्व होकर एक अलग ही क्लाइमैक्स स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर को दे देते हैं. ओके, द नेक्स्ट वन इज हैबिचुअस. सो हैबिचुअस क्या है? इट स्ट्रक्चर्स हाउ पीपल थिंक अबाउट द रोल ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स इन लाइफ एंड ऑल्सो द टाइप ऑफ एक्टिविटीज दे अंडरटेक और डू नॉट अंडरटेक. ठीक है, तो स्ट्रक्चर हैबिचुअस हैबिट की बात हम कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. सो इट इज कंस्ट्रक्टेड थ्रू इंटरैक्शन विद इन द फील्ड ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स बाय इंटरनलाइजिंग कम्युनिकेटेड वैल्यूज एंड प्रैक्टिसेस रिगार्डिंग स्पोर्ट्स एंड एक्सरसाइज. राइट, तो लोग स्पोर्ट्स को किस नजरिए से देख रहे हैं, उस स्पोर्ट का उनकी लाइफ में क्या पार्ट वो प्ले कर रहा है, दूसरे लोगों के साथ वो किस तरीके से कम्युनिकेट कर रहा है फील्ड में, along with the rules and the regulations that are set for that particular game, उस दायरे में रहते हुए. Okay, so that would constitute habituous. And the third concept that I have listed for discussion is nostalgia. ये nostalgia जो है वो एक complex and multi-faceted emotion है. So in reference to sports, nostalgia की अगर हम बात करते हैं, especially if we are talking of sports literature, the concept of nostalgia, it allows to visit a sport event in the past or the present. Okay, अगर हम present में कोई एक game देख रहे हैं, I've been from volleyball, and when I see anyone playing volleyball, I'm transported to the past. So present से मैं past में भी जा रही हूँ और past को recall कर रही हूँ. So with that movement, with that emotion of it, this nostalgia, self-reflection, exploration of memory, emotion का regulation, experience of reward, ये सारी अंदर एक complexities or feelings and emotions undergo karta hai. So you start reflecting upon your own capabilities. Maybe you try to push yourself towards rewarding yourself through a game again. So nostalgia functions to that end. So I have talked about the theory and the concepts, tried to be very to the point. And let us, take this example of this girl, Fiona, who is termed as the Queen of Katwe. 2016 में ये biography लिखी गई थी, and we have also a movie version of it, and probably I have seen the movie 2-3 times. Right? So based on the the concepts or the theories that we have just tried to understand right now, let us see how this particular book falls into that category. So The Queen of Katwe, a biography by American author Tim Croters, ये क्रॉनिकल करता है, कैप्चर करता है लाइफ ऑफ फिनोआ मुटेशी, एक युगांडन वुमन है ये. She becomes how she rises to become a chess prodigy, and later she becomes a world renowned chess champion, a grandmaster. So what we see is the formative development of this girl in the slums in a country. स्लम्स में रह रही है, ठीक है, उसका चाइल्डहुड कैसे गुजर रहा है, स्लम्स में है, एक ऐसे कंट्री में है जो कि वॉर और इकोनॉमिक स्ट्राइफ से जूझ रहा है, and she endures all these difficulties, right? Thanks to her parents, thanks to the upbringing and the values that her parents have imbibed in her. Okay. Particularly that love for intellectual life, so she wants to learn, she wants to read and write also. So ये जो किताब है, it received much visibility for its focus on chess master. A chess master कौन है? Is a non-white, okay, and is not a male, okay. So combining this professional achievement with the unique competitive challenges of being or becoming an African woman in a rapidly globalizing world. So along with this female Finoa, Croters जो writer हैं, वो एक और important character को introduce करते हैं, because a sports person is not made a sports person in isolation. Somebody makes the sports person. एक individual का major role होता है. It can be the parents, it can be the mentor, and a mentor is got to be a trainer, right? So Croters introduces another main character, Robert Ketende, Mr. Ketende बोलते हैं उनको, the man who becomes Finna's chess teacher. तो किटेंडे अपने आप में स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं, okay. So he also comes from a very severe poverty ridden family. He is managing to make his way through taxing educational ranks, earning scholarships for his own soccer skills. वो खुद एक soccer player जो है वो रह चुके हैं. So he converts to Christianity after a sporting event in which he nearly dies in a very freak accident. मरते वो बचता है. So what after his graduation, what he does is वो एक job लेते हैं American NGO sports outreach में, okay. So it offers, that NGO offers a blend of religious and social support and educational pathways to children living in slums in Uganda. ठीक है, तो Ketende है somehow NGO के through Uganda में place हो जाते हैं, and there is when Ketende meets Finoa. Okay, so out of his experience, Ketende realizes that children are not very willing to pursue sports, excellence in sports. Reason, of course, poverty hai, so it is the food and the living that they are more concerned about. So they do not find sports as a means of economic mobility. Okay, so what Ketende does is he resolves to begin a chess program as an alternative. कि अगर वो soccer नहीं खेल रहे हैं तो chess program के through, chess के through ही शायद students आने लगे, बच्चे आने लगे, and he is able to somehow help them out and bring them out of this poverty. So if we see, all the three, existential, Marxist, and the political theory, are implemented in this particular novel. Okay, they find application that in the story that has chess at its center, the game is symbolizing independence, it is symbolizing power, it is also symbolizing control, hope, and much more. Okay. There is one more work that I would like to take into discussion, more particularly because this work relates to the Indian context also, and again has sports as the central theme. What we need to understand is that स्पोर्ट्स की अपनी अलग लैंग्वेज है, स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर की भी एक अलग ही लैंग्वेज निकल कर आएगी. Okay, so what we have to understand is that sports literature has a different lexicon, a language of their own. So let us quickly see how literature gives meaning to sport, to life, to the society, not in normal times but trying and difficult times में किस तरीके से जो स्पोर्ट्स हैं, स्पोर्ट्स के थ्रू जो वैल्यूज हमने अपने अंदर इम्बाइब कर ली हैं वो किस तरीके से समाज में वापस एक तरीके से पहुंचाई जाती हैं. सो दिस इज वन एग्जांपल आई वुड डेफिनेटली लाइक टू टेक हियर फॉर डिस्कशन. आई होप आपने अपने स्कूल टाइम में ये एक छोटी सी कहानी है बाय फणेश्वर नाथ रेणु जी, पहलवान की ढोलक. हैव यू ever read this particular? It's a very short story. ये novel नहीं है, छोटी सी एक story है. I wonder whether you've read it or not, but नहीं पढ़ी है तो पढ़िएगा जरूर. It is available on the internet also. So the story is हम इसको read करेंगे और analyze करेंगे sport yarner के context में ही. Okay, because दिस पर्टिकुलर स्टोरी वो पैंडेमिक के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी एनालाइज करी हुई है, ह्यूमन वैल्यूज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी एनालाइज करी हुई है. सो वी वुड सी इट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स लिटरेचर याना. सो द स्टोरी इज अबाउट ए पहलवान, अ रेसलर, एंड हिज नेम इज लट्टन, राइट? सो लट्टन इज ऑर्फन्ड एट द एज ऑफ 9. वो 9 साल का ही था जब उनके माता पिता का देहांत हो जाता है. And since those were the times when child marriages took place, so he was brought up by his mother-in-law. तो उनकी सास जो है वो उनका भरण पोषण करती है. He went out and during the day cattle grazing के लिए वो निकल जाते थे, तो खाना पीना उस हिसाब से इनका ठीक रहता था. So what Lutton realized was that his mother-in-law was troubled by the neighbors a lot. कि उनके जो पड़ोसी हैं उनकी सास को बहुत तंग करते थे, because again she was a lone lady. So Lutton resolves to become a wrestler. So Lutton takes wrestling. He takes to wrestling. वो wrestling को adopt करता है as a means to teach lesson to the neighbors. तो यहाँ पे हम क्या करेंगे, एग्जिस्टेंशियल थ्योरी हमारी इंप्लीमेंट हो जाती है कि रेसलिंग लटन की लाइफ में क्या आया कि अपनी जिंदगी को बेहतर करने के लिए, कंट्रोल करने के लिए सिचुएशंस को कोई ऑप्रेस ना करे, उनको परेशान ना करे, रेसलिंग का रोल आ गया. सो एग्जिस्टेंशियल थ्योरी इज व्हाट इज वी सी ओवर हियर. सो टाइम passes by and Lutton is a young man, a strong young man. He walks like wrestlers, right? So one day what he does is he goes to a fair. एक मेले में जाता है, श्यामनगर का मेला है, वहां पर दंगल हो रहा है. Okay, so he goes there to see that dangal, and there is a renowned wrestler over here. उसको शेर का बच्चा बोला जाता है, and his name is Chand Singh. Okay, and Chand Singh is soon to be announced the Raj Pehलवान. राजा साहेब उसको जल्द ही राज पहलवान घोषित करने वाले थे. Okay, so Lutton somehow challenges Chand Singh, and Chand Singh and Lutton का जब वो wrestling match चल रहा होता है, Chand Singh no doubt strong उनका upper hand था, strong हो रहे थे, and Lutton was about to lose the bout. तो दूर कहीं लटन को एक ढोलक की थाप जो है वो सुनाई देना शुरू होती है. Starts the drum beats enter into his ears. What you see over here, I have written some of the beats that have been listed in that story also. Chat girdha or dik dhina, right? तो वो जो ढोलक की आवाज इनके कानों तक पहुंच रही है, Lutton starts giving it a meaning on his own. Okay, so chat girdha would mean mat darna, don't be scared. So this is how he accepts that drum to be his mentor, his guide. और उस ढोलक की थाप से ही वो उस अपनी कह लीजिए अपने आप को गाइड करते हैं, and he somehow overturns the entire bout and wins the match. So during the fight, when he is losing, it is the dholak that and the sound that from where he derives a meaning and defeats Chand Singh. तो चांद सिंह जैसे ही डिफीट हो जाते हैं, राजा साहिब acknowledges Lutton's win, calls him Lutton Singh. ठीक है, अभी तक वो केवल लट्टन था, then he becomes Lutton Singh and he is announced the Raj Pahalwan also. So what we see over here is the Marxist theory coming into picture. कि मैच जीतते ही लट्टन, whose caste was nowhere to be seen, becomes a kshatriya for the Raja Sahib. इसीलिए वो उसको Lutton Singh बोलते हैं. He says he's done something what a kshatriya would do. But once he's announced the Raj Pahalwan, जब वो Raj Pahalwan बन जाते हैं तो एक economic stability आती है, उनका status जो है elevate हो जाता है. So Marxist theory is seen over here. Okay, but then everything, since it is a story and everything would not go as planned, climax भी लेकर आना है तो एक problem भी आएगी. So what happens is the Raja Sahib is aging, he dies, and Raja Sahib's son, he's just come from abroad after his education over there. So उनके बेटे को wrestling में, पहलवानों में कोई interest नहीं है. His interest is in horses and racing. So it is but obvious that Lutton loses his identity as a Raj Pahalwan. He's shown the door, उनको दरवाजा दिखा दिया जाता है. So Lutton Singh has no option, और वो अब क्या है, वापस अपने गांव में आ जाते हैं. So when Lutton returns to his village, since time has passed, so Lutton के भी दो बेटे हैं, and they too both of them are wrestlers, और वो ढोलक use करके अपने sons को train करता है. Okay, so he always says कि इसकी आवाज को सुनो, the drum will guide you always. Okay, so when Lutton goes back to his village, वहाँ पे वो अपना अखाड़ा एक खोलते हैं. Initially villagers जो हैं वो join कर लेते हैं, but then not many people stay back. तो आखिर में in his अखाड़ा it is Lutton Singh and his sons only, right? So what are the trying times that we see over here? जो हम trying times की या problematic times की बात कर रहे हैं. Soon owing to famine और उसके बाद कॉलेरा, मलेरिया, ये महामारियां जो है ये फैलने लगी, and people started dying in his village. Okay, so owing to cholera and malaria, every day 2, 3, 4 people were dying, और शवों को ले जाया जा रहा था, उनका संस्कार की जगह उनको नदियों में बहाया जा रहा था. Something that is something we saw in the COVID times also. तो पूरे गांव में there is a kind of mourning atmosphere. सन्नाटा है, किसी के घर से आवाज आती है तो केवल रोने की आवाज आती है. Okay, so the nights are even more horrifying. तो उस सन्नाटे को दूर करने के लिए लट्टन क्या करता है, from evening to the next day morning, पूरी रात भर he beats his drums, he plays it. the entire evening till the next morning. So we have a philosophical theory over here. Okay, so chat girdha, again, mat darna. Dha gir dha gir, which means vah bahadur. Dik dhina, chit karo, defeat. Okay, so these are the ideas that Lutton derived from, that drum, and elevated himself or trained himself as, a wrestler. He's trying to give it back to the society, to the village, to the people of the village. Rather, what we see is soon even his sons, उनके जो दोनों बेटे हैं, वो भी cholera की चपेट में आ जाते हैं, and both of them die. Okay, and the day his sons die, the people of the village, okay, they fear that Lutton will not, beat the drum anymore. कि अभी तक तो उसके बेटे थे, इसीलिए वो ढोल बजाता था. अब उनके बेटों की मृत्यु हो गई है, तो वो अब शोक में चला जाएगा और ड्रम नहीं बजाएगा. And the people of the village were scared because for them the sound of the drum the entire evening was the only hope that Lutton was giving to them. Okay, they found a solace in Lutton and his drum. Okay, but Lutton अपने बेटों के शवों को नदी में बहाने के बाद he returns, and the same evening he he's committed to his job of beating the drum because of the people, to give peace and solace to the people who are waiting for him, who are waiting for his drum beats. Okay, तो 4-5 दिन के बाद क्या होता है? We are coming to the end of this particular story. After 4 or 5 days, जो गांव वाले हैं उनको ढोलक की आवाज नहीं सुनाई देती है. So worried, his so-called disciples, जिन्होंने कुछ समय के लिए अखाड़े में ट्रेनिंग लिया था, but then they left. So his disciples go to check, what is the reason that Lutton is not, beating his drum. So what they see is that Lutton, पेट के बल, face down, he's on the floor. Lutton is dead. And then it is learned that Lutton had told his students, उनके disciples को बोला था कि if ever I die, I should never be, placed on the pyre on my back. मुझे कभी भी पीठ के बल मेरी चिता पर मत लिटाना. Because during my life, I have never been defeated. Okay, so and that is the reason when Lutton dies, he is not seen, his body is not seen, पीठ के बल वो जमीन पर नहीं दिख रहा है, वो उसका पेट के बल वो जमीन पर लेटा हुआ है. So we find another theory, अगर psychological analysis करते हैं, so again we find an application of another theory over here. So wrestling, which started as existential requirement, became a way of life for Lutton Singh. Okay, and it is the same never say die spirit that he tries to enthuse in the society. तो wrestling ने, एक sport ने, एक existential requirement के through उसके जीवन में entry जरूर करी है, but उसका पूरी life को वो define इस तरीके से करता है that he cannot go beyond it. What he has learned from wrestling, he needs to give back. और wrestling से एक ही बात उन्होंने सीखी है, चित करो वाह बहादुर मत डरना. Okay, so you can defeat and you don't have to be afraid of anyone. So this is the idea that he is giving back to the society, right? I hope I have made sense, and we move on to the last concluding part, after which I would like to hear from you. So to conclude, we can comfortably say that sports literature, it has been helpful in identifying the social and cultural dimensions of sport. Okay, it has evolved as a very promising genre that exacts the relationship between intelligence and sport. Okay, you cannot be indulged in a game, in any sporting activity, without using your mind. Okay, so it establishes that particular relationship. So the very idea of a healthy lifestyle, सब healthy lifestyle की बात कर रहे हैं. So that healthy lifestyle, because of sports, okay, it brings about a balance in the entire being of a person. और वो entire being की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, balance in the intellectual, physical and the emotional being of a person. Okay, and therefore it promotes the body and mind unity. Okay, but as I mentioned earlier also, literary writing, fiction and non-fiction on sports, theme is very slim on the bookshelf. कुछ वर्क्स मैंने लिस्ट आउट जरूर किए हैं, बट अभी उनका नंबर बहुत कम है और उससे भी कम उनकी रीडरशिप है. I think we need to promote that readership also, more particularly in India, क्योंकि यहाँ पर हम fiction कम और biographies and autobiographies ज़्यादा देख रहे हैं. So what we'll see over here is the interdisciplinary approach to sports and literature that we need to explore. So if we explore this, we'll expand the entire scope and significance of the sports yana. So with this, I end with my presentation and my talk, and the house is open for discussion. Thank you.